Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War, Warhammer 2, quick match gameplay. This time around we are playing as the Dwarves against the High Elves on the map MP Alpine Ridge. And for this composition I did decide to do something a little bit trolly I think, focusing on grudge thrower use and trying to make the best use I can out of these catapults here, and trying to whittle down my opponent without really using any more direct fire means like Thunders or Quarrelers or Bungman's Rangers or anything like that, which are all relatively good picks against High Elves, but basically just decided to focus on these, figuring, there's not much the High Elves can do to me with shooting, and not really anticipating Sisters of Avalorn, which is what my opponent decided to bring here. And Sisters of Avalorn, of course, do cause magic damage. They do have armor piercing, though, so they're basically like old school Starfire shafts. In fact, their armor piercing is identical. The only difference is they have a little faster rate of fire and slightly better normal missile damage, not AP. So I didn't really anticipate them, but my opponent decided to bring them, and we'll see how things go. For my lord, I decided to bring a Brindle. I figure, I need some snares. You can't really go in to a fight against Dawies or against the Wood Elves, especially without any snares. So he does have Brindle, has no fear. He's got Foe Seeker, he's got Flash Bomb, so all pretty good abilities there. A front line of Peak Gate Guard, Hammers, and 2 Longbeards with great weapons. These guys are flanked by 2 miners just to provide some additional cannon fodder and some buffer zone. Giant Slayers on one end to provide some AP anti-large, and then Dragonback Slayers because they're still very strong. I still think they're arguably better than Giant Slayers, just because they do have that innate slow with Power of the Dragonback. Up in the front, you can see my Observer team. These courageous miners have volunteered for the dangerous task of staying on this ridge and spotting for the artillery, and already the Goblobber and the Grudge Thrower are firing off, and you can see we do have a Master Engineer here providing support. And if you can see, the Prospector Spyglass has been added to the Engineer, which provides a 18% accuracy buff to nearby allies, stacked on top of the already innately decent accuracy of the Goblobber and the Grudge Thrower, and the fact that I also do have Ballistics Calibration. I can get almost plus 50% accuracy for a decent amount of time. I also do have Entrenchment, of course, for extra damage. I actually brought extra powder, which works much better with Grudge Throwers than it does work with, say, cannons. It's a little nonsensical, but because Grudge Throwers actually have splash, whereas cannons do not, it works a lot better with them. And I do also have the rune that provides a slowing effect. Figuring, if my opponent brings Cav, if I can slow them down a little bit, then get Dragonback Slayers on them, I can really drag them into the muck. Regardless, you can see the Grudge Thrower is already hitting the Sisters of Avalorn, raking in a few kills here and there. Nothing too fancy, but, chipping away. My opponent's build is a pretty straightforward blunt force composition. You can see 3 Sisters of Avalorn, 4 White Lines of Grace, 2 Dragon Princes on the either end, and a Lord, a Princess on a Dragon with the volley of arrows, with the volley of high arrows, I do believe it's called, loose, which I think is a bit wasted on her, honestly, if you're on Dragon Breath, and then of course Foe Seeker. So catapults are doing a good job against the Sisters. You can see they're all down to about they're already down by about 2/3 of their health. They've already lost about 1/4 of their models, so nothing too terrible. In the meantime, you can see the Engineer is going to start teeing off on the Princess, whittling her down. She doesn't have any heals here because my opponent didn't bring a Lord of Lifecaster. And you can see Ballistics Calibration has gone down, providing that buff, allowing these guys to fire just a little bit faster, hit hopefully just a little more consistently. And you can see I actually switched targeting to this stationary group of Dragon Princes because my opponent wasn't moving, and hoping to do a little bit of damage to these guys, soften them up a little bit, because Dragon Princes can be a major league nuisance. And you can see those Grudge Thrower shots are doing some damage. In the front line, in the meantime, my poor miners do get caught. They're slaying out with the White Lions. Not a good fight for them, but the Hammers are pushing in. They'll pile through and do the best they can. In the meantime, the Grudge Thrower is raking in some decent damage here on the Dragon Princes. My opponent, once again, he doesn't have any heals because he invested so much in his blunt force strat, so I don't have to worry too much about his units being healed up. But I do, so if I can break these, break their HP pool down and prevent them from making use of their martial mastery, that's going to be a huge win for me. Unfortunately, the Sisters of Avalorn are doing monstrous damage, far more than I anticipated. You can see they're just raining death and destruction down on my poor Dawi. Granted, the Grudge Throwers are coming back online to focus on this shooting because I realized just how much of a threat it was, but they're still doing monstrous work over here. The miners being charged in the rear by Dragon Princes, not much they can do about that, despite having some limited AP. But my opponent does dive in with the Princess, and I decide to exploit that and start beating her down with Brindle, who's decent in that situation. Unfortunately, the PK Guard are practically annihilated in the process. You can see the Princess here getting hit pretty consistently, but nonetheless able to take to the air somehow. Grumbrindle, I guess, missed his hit, and you can see the PK Guard here just getting destroyed. I did pop Grumbrindle has no fear to keep my guys in the fight for as long as possible, but really my opponent is getting a monstrous trade here, wonderful trade. Things are looking very grim for me. Unfortunately for my opponent, though, things are also not Despite the Sisters of Everyone doing some good work, one unit has been routed off. This unit's being pounded by the Grudge Throwers. And on the periphery, where the Longbeards are not being interfered with, they are doing okay in some areas. And you can see finally, obviously, despite the fire, these guys are going to break because they got shot at, but these guys are doing okay. Giant Princes are going to charge in, but they're a whittled unit, down unit, and here my opponent doesn't quite get a charge off, gets intercepted by Giant Slayers, and you can see just how fast these Giant Princes get dumpstered. That Martial Mastery is going to do nothing for them against the 80 melee attack Giant Slayers have against large, and these Giant Princes are just getting chopped down. You can see those angry Giant Slayers just coming in. They're doing just monstrous work. It doesn't matter that these guys have physical resistance, they've got armor. They're basically getting hit every attack these guys make, and you can see these Giant Slayers have only lost 2 models so far. Unfortunately for me, though, Grimbrindle does rout. He actually gets terrified after whittling the princess down to 1900 HP. So he did a good job in here, but now he's terrified, and he's actually getting shot to death by the Sister of Avalorn, at which point things are looking rather grim. You can see Grudge Thrower is doing its very best against these sisters. My opponent pushes white lines through. This flank, though, going well as well. The Dragonback Slayers are really mopping up the Dragon Princes. They got them trapped here in the muck and are there beating the snot out of them. You can see these Dragon Princes really don't stand much of a chance. Dragonback Slayers obviously won't do as well as Giant Slayers against Dragon Princes, but still, they'll do well enough, especially once their Martial Mastery wears off. On the periphery, though, you can see basically my army is not much of an army. PK Guard is basically annihilated. The Miners are in full rout. There's a handful of peripheral units. You can see Miners here doing some good job against the Dragon Princes, but really the White Lions are about to dive in. My Engineer is doing his best to try to shoot back at the Princess. Whittle her down because, you know, every bullet counts, every shot. And the Engineer did get some buffs. He's got 180 range now. I do believe he might have gotten some better damage. You can see Volley of High Arrows coming in. He's getting peppered down, but you know what? That Dowie, he's a stalwart Dowie, man. He's going to keep fighting. He's not going to surrender just because some patsy elf decides to start hitting him. But nonetheless, it's a tough spot for him. But you can see over here the catapults working on the Sisters of Avalorn. In the pits here, the Dragonback Slayers tearing through the White Lions, and they'll actually beat White Lions. Not super cost efficiently, but when they're whittled down like this, when they've got Longbeard support, they will be able to chop through the White Lions, chop through this unit of White Lions, and then start pincering the Sisters. In the meantime, you can see the Giant Slayers here gap closing on the Sisters of Avalorn, pressuring them off. Even as my opponent does dive in on this block of infantry, gets a lovely recharge, and is going to start terror routing this entire pocket of troops. The Master Engineer is going to rout, the Miners are going to rout, and Master Engineer is actually a decent melee combatant. It's worth noting. If you look at his stats, he does have, well, decent, but he's got 120 armor, 38 melee attacks, 30 melee defense, and he's got 280 weapon strength, of which most is armor piercing. So he's not a pushover in close quarters, but with that fear and terror, with the dragon in there, he's going to be in a he's going to be in a bit of a pickle. You can see the Princess there does dive in. She's going to immediately attack him, and he's going to get terror routed. Unfortunately for my opponent, though, these Dragon Princes are actually getting tracked down by Miners. These courageous Dowie defending Hearth and Home there. You can see Dragon Prince here just smiting them, and they're just hitting him with their pickaxes and just bring him down. So good stuff. These Dragon Princes getting dragged into the muck. My opponent at this point is in a grim spot, actually. You can see the bounce of power is slightly in my favor, and that is because I do have 2 units of Slayers on the field. This unit of Giant Slayers was just massacring its way through Sisters of Avalorn. This unit of Dragonback Slayers would just finish off these Dragon Princes, and it's on its way to deal with this backline. My opponent's sole redeeming feature or item at this point is this dragon, the Princess on a dragon, because the Sister of Avalorn can't stand up to Slayers in close quarters, not in protracted melee at any rate. And the White Lions are too squishy. They're weak at this point. The Dragon Prince is actually, my opponent forgot about him, I think, and they're getting beaten down over here by the Miners steadily, slowly but surely, 10 HP at a time. They're getting chopped apart, and you can see this guy over here surrounded and getting dragged down, that filthy High Elf Noble. Bunch of arrogant scum getting brought down by a bunch of picks, so serves them right. Miners, of course, are very tired at this point. These guys are also very tired, so neither unit's particularly great. But, you know, the Miners and their just numbers are going to do well. In the meantime, though, my opponent does start trying to flee with Sisters of Avalorn, but he doesn't have anything to protect them here. He's got no way to protect them, even if he could, though. These guys are mostly out of ammo, so at this point the Giant Slayers with their monstrous remaining HP pools are going to be okay. Unfortunately, this unit of Sisters of Avalorn is going to be able to rally, because I don't have anything pursuing them, but things are definitely looking interesting, definitely a little grim, I suppose, in some ways. You can see the Grudge Thrower crew trying to flee. I was trying to rally him with the Slayers. But my opponent is aware of that and is diving in to mop up with the Princess. Unfortunately, he's not protecting his sisters, and so the sisters are going to get wrecked. You can see I'm not even sure, you can see over here a handful of them already got caught. They're taking some monstrous damage. They don't have much in the way of sisters don't have much in the way of melee defense once they lose their, at least not compared to Giant Slayers. Like it is 38 melee defense, but it's not nothing to Giant Slayers 50. Actually now 51 because they've veteraned up melee attack. But you can see they're slowly but surely just getting caught and chopped up. As soon as these Dragonback Slayers make contact, these guys are going to fall apart rather quickly as well, because there's only so much running you can do, and once the Dragonback Slayers get that slow on you, sisters won't be able to escape. You can see these guys are actually very tired, so they're struggling a little bit to catch them, but as they get that hit in, once they get their hits in with their choppers, their axes, these guys are going to get slowed and they're dead. Now my opponent does fire a volley of high arrows here on top to the Giant Slayers, doing a little bit of damage. The Giant Slayers, of course, will take some damage in return from the Sisters of Avalorn. They're incredibly squishy, but the Sisters of Avalorn are going to get dumpstered here in the pits, and there's only so much they can do. And at this point, the Princess is basically out of ammo. She's got one more arrow left in her. Giant Slayers have huge HP per model, too, so you don't really have to worry too much about Pierce. I actually think the arrow missed to boot, which is add insult to injury. But I actually get my Gobblobber back online. You can see my Grudge Thrower crew's coming back. They're dwarves. They don't break. They're going to start chipping away at these remaining troops my opponent has. These sisters got shattered, and as soon as they shattered, I started moving the Dragonback Slayers over, and we're actually going to fast forward a little bit here. You can see another breath attack hits the Dragonback Slayers, doing a bit of damage. My opponent gets a little greedy here, but you can see just how fast. She's got 1600 HP going in. You can see just how fast that HP is getting destroyed by the Giant Slayers. They're just chopping every hit's like 60 plus damage on the dragon, just completely annihilating it. And almost every attack they make is a hit, so they're in some very, very bad spot here. You can see the Grudge Throwers are online again. My opponent does get his White Lions in there, but you know, White Lions don't have much more HP. They have worse melee defense, worse melee attack, and their armor's irrelevant. So Giant Slayers are going to do well. You can actually see they're already kind of tearing down the White Lions rather quickly. Sisters are going to dive in there to provide some help. They're out of ammo at this point. The Slayers are maybe losing, but these guys are wavering. The big problem is the Slayers are unbreakable, so even in situations where they would normally lose, they don't, because they don't break. But you can see the Gobblobber fire coming in, trying to provide some additional support. You can see there, it probably kills some Slayers as well, but these guys shatter. The Sisters shatter, and these guys are going to break, and once they break the Slayers, because they're unbreakable, because they're fast and they're stunty little feet, they're going to be able to pursue these guys. You can just look at this. These guys look ridiculous. he's so short and stout, and it's ridiculous. But they're able to catch these White Lions. You can see they're just in full route here, and getting just chopped apart. You can see he just swings his axe there. One elf goes down. There's really not much these guys can do at this point, so we're going to fast forward things. You can see over here the Princess, though, doing mop-up duty. Not a bad idea, honestly. The Grudge Throwers were a nuisance, so at this point it's fairly irrelevant. I've managed to wipe out my opponent's ground component. My opponent still does have the Princess up in the air, so what I'm trying to do here, I don't want to let... What I want is actually for my miners to rout off the field. Because if my opponent is able to kind of dial in on the miners, start fighting them, he's going to be able to stay in the air, and he won't lose that way. So what I decide here, if you don't know, the Dragonback Slayers do have charge defense against large, so I just simply stand him still. No, my opponent's going to have to charge here because his morale's about to break. He dives in. Obviously, he doesn't have a choice. This is his only unit remaining, and at this point, it's bye-bye, poor Princess. Good night. You can see the Giant Slayers charging in there. They've got their handful of models. Actually, I'm wondering just how many models it is, but we don't get to see it before the match ends. It's a bit of a brutal fight. I wouldn't say this is the most competitive build for the Dawi, but definitely you normally want some shooting to counteract an elven shooting, especially now that Sister of Avalorn are a choice. My underestimation of the Sisters honestly nearly cost me this game. The only saving grace there was the Slayers, who, of course, don't break and are absolute beasts. And I guess to an extent the Grudge Throwers, but really they didn't do as well as I would have hoped. The Engineers got some buffs though, so the Engineer is much more viable, or more useful, I think, than he used to be, but definitely the Grudge Throwers didn't do as well as I would have liked in this game, except maybe at whittling down the Dragon Princes. For my opponent's build, interesting take. I think the lack of caster is a big problem, and I think that against a more proper Dawi build, not mine, with actual shooting, Bugman's Rangers are a very common pick. You'll see some of the Thunderers, sometimes units like that. I don't think this would hold up very well. Sisters of Avalorn, I can almost guarantee you're going to get dumpstered by Bugman's Rangers. I think something like an organ gun would absolutely decimate the high elf line here, and decimate the Dragon Princes. I really do think this build would have some issues against a more conventional Dawi build. I just think that against this sort of build with unshielded infantry, definitely one of the good things though with Sister of Avalorn is that you can force your opponent to bring shields. Before the Dawi, you could basically just shrug it off and say, whatever, I don't need shields, but now you kind of do. But also, they're basically useless if your opponent brings Iron Drakes, which is another point worth considering or remembering, because they'll have their damage cut down by 95%. But nonetheless, good game to my opponent was pretty cool. It was exciting, and definitely came right down to the wire. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you found it entertaining. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. If you have any comments, any criticisms, anything like that, be sure to share them, and I will respond as soon as I can. As usual, guys, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.